Well, good evening to you, and thanks for joining us on Up North Live Unscripted on this Thursday evening. And boy, what a day it was. This crazy thing happened where the sun was out today for most of us across northern Michigan. Now, that hasn't happened in a while. It actually felt so nice to be outside, especially here in Traverse City, where it was 49 degrees. And Joe, you mentioned that's a new record for this day, a record high.
Yeah, the old one was for Traverse City, at least, was 47 on this date back in 1988 until today. So we broke that by 2 degrees. Nobody that I saw reached 50. It was we were close,
yeah,
in some spots today. But yeah, the sun was certainly a nice little treat today. We might get a little more tomorrow, but not quite as much. Moving ahead here, but it does look quiet the next few days, Maya. So if you have plans for the weekend, there's a bunch of events going on. We'll have more on that. A few forecasts coming up. Doesn't look too bad. Sunday though could be a little messy. So we'll talk about all that and look ahead in a few minutes.
Thank you, Joe.
A loss of life in an aviation accident is very unusual in the United States. And our heartfelt sorrow goes out to everyone that's affected. It affects us, it affects everyone around us. There are a lot of people hurting today. We will help find out what happened. We will do it factually, and we will do it accurately.
You just heard from the National Transportation Safety Board, which is now launching its own investigation into the deadly mid-air collision that happened last night over Washington, D.C. They say they still have not recovered the critical onboard data recorders. Now, let's turn things over to a live look over the Potomac River. You're seeing the aftermath of that overnight collision between an American Airlines jet and a Black Hawk helicopter. It is believed to have killed all of the more than 60 passengers aboard. Now, recovery efforts are underway at this time. We do not know how this crash happened, and on that flight, more than a dozen U.S. figure skaters returning from Kansas. We will continue our coverage now with our sister station in Kalamazoo. Autumn Pitcher spoke with the ice skating community in West Michigan, some of whom actually knew people who were on that American Airlines flight.
This tragedy has really impacted those across the globe. Here in Kalamazoo, I spoke to many a part of the skating community. One even knew a passenger that was on the plane. She was too emotional to go on camera with us, but she tells us her heart is just breaking. What was supposed to be an exciting start to the Midwestern Synchronized Skating Championship began on a somber note.
We ask that everyone please join us in a moment of silence.
That moment of silence for top ice skaters from the U.S. who died in the D.C. plane crash.
It's devastating. To come in on day one of competition with this it's heavy. It's heavy for a lot of the skaters.
Especially as Kalamazoo resident Jessica Ponton tells me many of those skaters trained with or competed with people aboard the American Airlines flight, including her very own daughter.
This morning, I clicked open and looked at a list and realized that I knew multiple names on that list. It was kind of like a punch to the gut.
Athletes, coaches, and family members were all returning home Wednesday from the National Development Camp held in conjunction with the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita.
It's so hard to just imagine having the parents and the coaches all wiped out at the same time.
They were the up-and-coming skaters that you were probably going to see them in the national scene.
Kayla McWilliams flies often for her daughter's skating competitions, along with many other parents in the tight-knit skating community.
It could have been any of our kids. It's tragic. It's how could this happen? This competition was in Wichita last year. It hits close to home. We were just there last year, this exact time for this exact competition.
The Synchronized Skating Championship will continue throughout the weekend, and parents of skaters tell us they will not only be taking to the ice to compete this time, but to remember those gone too soon. In Kalamazoo, I'm Autumn Pitcher.
And we will continue to provide you updates on any information that comes out between now and our 11 o'clock news at 11 o'clock on Up North Live News. And also be sure to head to our website, upnorthlive.com, for the latest on that tragedy as well. Switching gears now to local news, a pretty disturbing case where a 29-year-old man is facing federal charges for manipulating an 11-year-old girl from Petoskey into sending him sexually explicit photos and videos. Now, it is said that the suspect and the victim met through an online gaming application, and our very own UpNorthLive's Daniel Zivian spoke to specialists about the dangers kids face and how parents can help.
This is the homepage of Roblox. It's a popular website for creating and sharing games. While parents might not understand what's happening on here, the basic problem is a familiar one.
It is an easy place for people to say, I'm a kid just like you, and let's talk.
That's what 29-year-old Ryan Ducan is accused of doing in his home state of New York. After meeting on Roblox, Ducan allegedly convinced the victim to download Just Talk, a messaging app. Undeterred by the victim's age of 11, the filing says he asked her for sexual images. The situation only escalated. Ryan replied, "Do it, or I'll find your location." She complied because she was scared.
Online enticement and sextortion cases increased over 300% from 2021 to 2023. We don't have the 24 statistics yet, but I can only imagine that they're going up because these are a lot of cases that we are seeing frequently. They may be posing as somebody their own age that goes to the same school or a neighboring school, but in reality, it could be anybody behind the screen.
Petrago says having a basic idea of your kid's online activity goes a long way. A local child advocate adds that parents should steer clear of victim blaming.
If they do find that someone's threatening them, parents that won't yell at them or shame them even more can sometimes have kids come forward faster than others.
In Petoskey, Daniel Zivian, UpNorthLive News.
And take a look at your screen right now. The QR code on your screen leads to the Internet Crimes Against Child Task Force website. That's where you can find useful guides and ways to report any incidents. Now, we're told that Michigan receives more than 2,000 tips per month related to sharing child sexually abusive material online. Now, let's turn things over to the reporter of this story, Daniel Zivian. Dan, thanks so much for joining us tonight. A very disturbing and really sad story.
Yes, indeed, Maya. I had to acquaint myself with the details of this case going into reporting this, and it's important work that we do, but you almost wish you hadn't read it.
Yes, we received all of the federal documents last night, and I went through and read everything, and I saw what the victim, her statement, everything that she went through. And I think one thing that's also worth mentioning, and I know you did touch on this, but the suspect in this case lived in New York. He was a security guard at a school, and this happened to a girl in Petoskey. So it really just goes to show this can happen to anyone, anywhere. And the person on the other side of the screen could be anyone, anywhere.
Yeah, and of course it's important to know with that, of course that's what leads the feds to get involved with this, that this was filed in federal court. I believe this particular court's in Grand Rapids. There's nothing too, in case for anyone who might be confused, there's nothing too different about what this suspect is said to have done compared to other people within the state. It really is just that technicality of doing so over state lines immediately involves the federal government.
Sure. And you already mentioned some tips of what parents can do to try to protect their kids when they are online. And it is definitely a scary time because when we were growing up, we had Facebook and some things like that. But it seems like today there are just so many more platforms that really can target young people. So what are some other safety tips that you learned that you didn't have time to put in your story that you want to share?
Another one is to be, there's two different approaches to being preventative. There's just knowing what your kid is doing on the internet. Then there is also a more maximalist approach. You can go with parental controls on a lot of devices. There's also, admittedly, the approach that would be most familiar to me and when I grew up in the 2000s, which is simply not have it as an option for several more years than people might be having it as an option for. Of course, I can't speak for everyone. I only had an iPhone or phone of any kind at the age of 12, I think it was, as a very special gift. I understand some kids today are getting those gifts like that younger, iPads to watch things on and be connected to the internet to even younger than that. So, that's obviously not something that's easy to recommend out of hand. We can't tell someone how to parent their child, how to run those things, but it is important to note that if you, it sounds like the name of a famous book, but if you give a little kid an iPad, at the very least, be aware that these are risks that really these are real risks on the internet in this day and age.
Sure, and even if a kid doesn't have an iPad, like in your story, you were at a library and you pulled up the website Roblox, which is where the victim and the suspect in this story met, and it's a gaming, online gaming system. Can you go into a little more detail about like what Roblox is?
Would that I could. Roblox is not easy for me to understand. I imagine it's harder for a lot of others. Roblox is new enough that it is actually the generation below me. What I understand to be the main point of the website is that you're creating games using this coding platform that they have, and then on the same website, you can share that with the world. That's the basic function, but my understanding is that for younger kids in elementary school and middle school, this has become like a very popular, almost social media-esque platform. There's a lot of communication, people sharing things with each other. As I understand it, there's also, oh no, actually I'm thinking of the wrong game in that case. I was almost about to confuse my video games, and unfortunately I don't play many video games. But that's the basics of Roblox. It's become an internet community. Anyone can make an account, just like all sorts of internet apps and games. And it can be, well, it usually is, and it can be anonymous. And that's one thing that I think was important to stress with this story. Like, parents will be like, well, I don't understand Roblox, and, people might shut down, having to have Roblox explained to them. The really important point is that none of those details really matter. What really matters is something that was the same in the 1990s. As long as you understand that any website like this where you can create an account, anyone else can create an account anonymously and tell you whatever they want on that account, and kids can take that at face value. They're impressionable. Now, as I understand it, in this case, the guy, at a certain point along the line, in this particular case, the guy was apparently honest about the fact that he was 29 years old, but some people could just lie the whole way through. It's the Wild West, really, until it's reported.
Right, and something else that I learned in those court documents is at first the girl said that she was 16, but then as this kind of went on, she admitted, I'm 11. And the guy who at that point said, that's okay, I don't care, continued to send me these sexually explicit photographs and videos. So just very disturbing. And I'm wondering, are there any like age restrictions on Roblox? Do you have to be a certain age to use that?
I'm not familiar with Roblox's rules. What I can say is that, throughout the history of the internet, there's always been sites that say you should have a parent's permission or older, or, you should be 13 and up. Like, I think, Twitter, for example, Facebook, websites like that have had that as a term and condition. Mm-hmm. When you check the box, I've read all the terms and conditions. You're affirming that, you're of age and, right. We assume no risk and yada, yada, yada. There's been countries, Australia, I think is the biggest example recently, that have tried to pass laws saying, no, you have to be over 13 years old to use this website, and a website letting you use it when you're younger is in violation of these laws. But enforcement is always a question with this stuff, because at the end of the day, really, you're just checking a box. And kids, if kids want to be on these websites and they know about them from hearing about it from friends at school and whatnot, they will find a way. Mm-hmm. And I know this because I liked computers as a kid. And I was, slacking off in 7th grade and 8th grade with the laptops they gave us and trying to get around the, the firewall that the teachers put up to prevent us using video game websites. I was that kid at one point, and that's what kids will try to do, unfortunately. I feel very fortunate I never encountered anything like this.
Yes, and I know when I was younger, I think you had to be 13 to get on Facebook, and I was younger than that. I just lied about the year I was born, and like you said, luckily nothing bad happened at that point. But Danny, thanks so much for coming on and for sharing this story. Just a really good reminder about the scary things that can happen online, especially to children, and to just always be as aware as you can of what your children are doing online. We're going to take a quick commercial break now, but we'll have much more on your weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Joe Charlevoix in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Boy, that sunshine sure felt nice today, but not only did it feel nice, but also cleaned up some of the roads, which over the past couple weeks got pretty messy with all of the snow and cold temperatures. But I'm sure the roads will be back to their messy conditions after our next winter storm system. So, Joe, when can we see more of these winter-like conditions?
I want to focus on the sun today.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm jumping too ahead of myself.
No, it's a good question. It looks like Sunday we'll get maybe some snow in here.
So a few days of clear roads.
Yeah, a few days still ahead of us here. This is earlier today. Look at the sun there, Maya. We'll take it back in time, a couple hours at least. This is looking over South Boardman there in Kalkaska County. Beautiful shot. Yeah, a lot of snow on the ground. Although you can even tell from the aerial view here, the roads are in pretty good shape. Out there, and yeah, nice day across northern Michigan. It's just one of those rare days where we did get a lot of sunshine, so nice to get our drone up today. These are the high temperatures today. So Traverse City reached 49. That was a record high. We talked about that off the top of the show. Mount Pleasant reached 49 as well. It was a little cooler up across the UP and Drummond Island, where we had 32 there, but it's warmer around the Midwest. Of course, you may recall the bitter cold we had last week. That's long gone. It's 53 at Madison right now. Sioux Falls 52. So overall from Pittsburgh all the way up to Fargo tonight, International Falls, pretty mild scenario. Here's the last 6 hours, our satellite radar loop. There's the snow east of us. That has kind of moved away. And for the most part right now, skies are relatively clear. We will jump down further south of us, and there is a lot of rain tonight around Cincinnati, much of Kentucky, Louisville, that area, back towards St. Louis, looking at some rain. We aren't really going to get much out of that here, but if you're traveling, it is Friday tomorrow. If you're traveling downstate, you might run into some rain around Detroit, even south of Grand Rapids, Flint, that region. That's tomorrow around 9 o'clock. Notice northern Michigan's still pretty dry. There's the rain downstate. Some snow could mix in. See that? Even around Detroit by tomorrow evening. Chance for some snow. Again, I point that out if you're heading that way. But back home, just a few flurries here. And then Saturday, quiet. That next system you see kind of inching in, that gets in here on Sunday. And we do have that in the forecast. Here's the weekend, 10 to 25 Saturday. Sunday, mid-20s to upper 30s. It'll be warmer, but chance for some snow mixing with maybe a little bit of rain in the lower peninsula. Here's the extended forecast. Yeah, messy weather, to your point, Maya, what you asked, is going to roll in Sunday. Some snowfall. And then next week, kind of cloudy again. Temperatures in the 20s, a few snow showers.
So we might not see the sun like we saw it today
no,
for a while.
Yeah, maybe a couple peaks tomorrow, hopefully.
Hopefully you all soaked it up today then.
That's right.
Thanks so much, Joe. Let's take another quick break, but we will check in with Sports Director Harrison Beebe right after this commercial break. Well, it is Thursday, which means it is Jimmy John's Sports Corner night. For more on that, let's turn things over to Sports Director Harrison Beebe. Harrison, who did you talk to in this week's Jimmy John's Sports Corner?
Maya, I gotta interrupt you. I have breaking sports news for Unscripted here. The Pistons have their first All-Star in 6 years. Cade Cunningham officially named an NBA Eastern Conference reserve for the All-Star game. It'll be 2 weeks from Sunday in San Francisco.
Wow.
The home of the Golden State Warriors. So Cade representing the Pistons, pretty cool stuff for a team that's
well-deserved.
been floundering. All right, I know we're short on time, so we'll get to Reese Broderick. He's a senior at Traverse City Christian, and he's chasing the all-time career three-point record for any high school basketball player in the state of Michigan. He's 20 shy entering tonight. Here's a snippet of our conversation.
The following segment is sponsored by Jimmy John's of Traverse City.
I didn't think it was possible until probably end of junior year when Coach put together the numbers and I figured out that it was definitely doable. Sophomore year, I hit 104, which put me 4th all-time for season. So that made me think I could maybe get the career too, so that helped out.
I know the other night you tied the game record with 15.
Yeah.
What was it about that night? Were you going for a big number to really get this moving along? Or?
What helped was I started off 6 for 9 in the first quarter. So 7 is the record for most in a quarter. So I hit 6. I tried to get that 7th and missed the last one, but we went for it.
Well, and by comparison, it shows this isn't what you're playing for and nothing else. The other night, you only had 2 3-pointers. So you're kind of slowly but surely trying to get there, but you have a pretty good team right now after the 12-2 start for the Sabres.
Yeah, the first goal is definitely to win and go far in playoffs.
Did I read correct? You haven't won a district before?
No, our school has not won, so that's definitely a big goal for us.
Okay, Steph Curry.
Hey, actually, I asked him about that. I was like, what motivated you to kind of chase this dream? He's like, no, I'm not really a big NBA guy or having a role model that motivated me to do it. He just, as a freshman, he wanted an excuse to get meaningful minutes on the floor. So he started hitting corner threes, and he said then his teammates were looking out for him, and here he is, chasing the biggest number anybody's ever hit for a high school career.
He's making all those threes. He's not going to spend a lot of time on the bench, that's for sure. All right, thanks so much, Harrison. We have to take another quick break, but we'll be right back with our question of the day and a look at the live results. Stay with us.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
And our question of the day is related to the story that Daniel Zivian shared with us earlier. Do you think your child would tell you about an uncomfortable online incident? As of right now, 38% of voters say yes, 33% say no, and 28% say not sure. We have much more detail on that story on our website, UpNorthLive.com. But that'll do it for Up North Live Unscripted tonight at 6:30. Be sure to join us for Up North Live News at 11. Take care, everyone.